back to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Debbie Javier. So today's lesson is the voice of verb. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and please click the subscribe button and the bell button for you to be notified every time I have a new video. So today's lesson is about the voice of verb. This is a request. So what do you mean by voice of verb? So voice is one of the many characteristics of verbs that tells us whether the subject is acting or being acted upon. So there are two kinds of voice. We have the active voice and the passive voice. So what do you mean by active voice and passive voice? Let's try to differentiate. Active voice is used when the subject is the doer of the action. So a sentence in the active voice has a direct object. How about the passive? Passive voice is used when the subject becomes the receiver of the action. So for you to be able to understand the differences between the active and the passive voice, let's have an example. So in these examples, I will be differentiating how to change active to passive using the simple tenses, simple present, simple past, simple future, and I'll also be using one sentence using different tenses and then change it from active to passive. Okay, so there are three quick steps in transforming active voice to passive voice. So what are these steps that you need to remember? So number one, make the direct object the subject of the passive voice sentence. So mean to say, from being a subject, you change it into a direct object. So you will be able to understand this better as we proceed with our discussion. Don't you worry about that. Number two, use the form of the be verb as an auxiliary and the past participle of the verb to complete the verb phrase. The be verb that goes with the main verb depends on the tense being used. So please take note of that. Use the form of the be verb as an auxiliary and the past participle of the verb to complete the verb phrase. Please take note that from active to passive, in the passive voice, it is constant. The main verb will always be in the past participle. Okay? The main verb in the verb phrase will always be in the past participle. So the be verb that goes with the main verb depends on the tense being used. Number three, change the subject to a by phrase. So for example, by Debbie, by my mother, by father, and so on. So you'll be able to understand how to make the by phrase as we proceed with our discussion. It may sometimes be omitted. So it's possible that you will no longer mention the subject in the sentence when the sentence is already in the passive voice. So it's possible. So let's try to look at the examples now. So I tried to differentiate simple present, how to change active to passive in the simple present, simple past, then the simple future. Then I'll also be using one sentence and then change it into different tenses for you to be able to understand how to change from active to passive better. So let's focus first on the simple present. The sentence is, in the active voice, the teachers watched the students eagerly. So that is the sentence in the active voice. So the subject teachers, the verb is watch, which is in the simple present, and the receiver of the action, we have the students. So remember, you now make the receiver into a doer and the doer into a receiver when you change it into passive. And then, please take note, I have already made use of color coding for you to be able to identify which one became the subject, became the doer of the action, and then what changed occurred in the verb. So let's take a look at the example of the passive. So the students are watched by the teachers eagerly. So the students now became the subject in the passive. And then, are watched, where did we get are? Because are will depend on the subject. So since the subject is students, we use are. And why are? Why present? Because the verb in the active is watched, which is present. Therefore, the be verb should also be in the present tense. And then watched. Why did we use watched? Because it is constant. In the passive voice, the main verb will always be in the past participle. And then, by the teachers. So the doer in the active now became the receiver, by the teachers. So in here, we use the by phrase and then by the teachers. So teachers, where did we get it? From the subject, it became the receiver of the action here. Okay? So the students are watched by the teachers eagerly. Number 2, Maria cooks a very delicious spaghetti. So in here, from changing it from active to passive, please take a look at the change in the passive. So a very delicious spaghetti. So we now have here, where do we always start the change? So from after the verb in the active, that is where you're going to start changing the passive. So for example, in here, after the verb cooks, we have a very delicious spaghetti. So we now start your sentence in the passive that way. A very delicious spaghetti is cooked. Why is? Because it's spaghetti is the subject. Cooked, past participle. And then why is? Because the verb is cooks, simple present. And then by Maria. So now became the doer, the receiver of the action, I should say. Number 3, Aunt Jenny sells cakes. So again, you start from after the verb. I should say after the verb, you start the subject in the passive. So cakes are sold by Aunt Jenny. Why did we use are? Because it's cakes, plural, and then sold, past participle, it's constant, by Aunt Jenny. I hope I made that very clear. That's only for the simple present. How about the simple past tense? What happens to the verb in the passive voice? Our students joined the contest. You see, I made use of the same sentences so that you will be able to see the differences that took place. So it's better and it's easier for you to understand. So now we have the contest was joined by our students. Okay? So we now have here our students joined the contest. So the contest was joined by our students. We have it there. So again, from the after the verb in the active, you start your sentence in the passive. So the contest, okay, was joined because joined is in the past tense. So we have was and then past participle joined by our students. Next, Maria cooked a delicious spaghetti. So we have here a delicious spaghetti was cooked by Maria. So is it possible, for example, a question mark? Is it possible to remove Maria? It can be omitted. So you can say a delicious spaghetti was cooked because who did the action is not important in the passive voice. So it's possible to omit it. Next, number 3, Aunt Jenny sold cakes. So we have here cakes were sold by Aunt Jenny. So we now make use of were because sold is the verb in the active voice. It's in the simple past tense. So by Aunt Jenny. Let's have the simple future tense. I hope at this time you are already getting the idea of how to change active to passive. So we now have the examples. Our students will join the contest. That's in the active. So again, just like I said a while ago, you start changing the passive, the active to passive by from the word that comes after the verb. So we have here the contest. So we have here the contest will be joined. So it's again in the past participle by our students. Next, Maria will cook a delicious spaghetti. So the color coding will help you. So the first became the last became the first. Okay, please take note. The first here, our students in the active, for example, already became the last part by our students. So let's now proceed with number 2. Maria will cook a delicious spaghetti. So a delicious spaghetti will be cooked by Maria. So again, just like what I said, you can omit the by phrase. It's possible. And the sentence will still be complete. Number 3, Aunt Jenny will sell cakes. So cakes will be sold by Aunt Jenny. So you see, the color coding will tell you the position of the word. So for example, our students, it was the first, I should say, first part of the sentence in the active became the last part in the passive. And then the contest was the last part became the first part. Please take note of that. And then will be joined. Look at will join and will be joined. You just change the simple future into the past participle of the verb. You will still have will be joined. Okay? So I hope that's very clear. I hope you understand. So Let's now proceed with other examples to further explain about the changes that will take place from active to passive. This time, I made use of the same sentence in different tenses for you to be able to clearly understand how to change active to passive. So let's have the first example. So again, on the first column, active, second column, passive. So let's see. First example, number 1. Maria writes a letter. This is in the simple present. So we have, how do we change it? Look at the color coding again. Okay, a letter, so we start from the word that comes after the verb. A letter is written by Maria. So why did we use is again? Because writes is in the simple present. So written is constant because it's past participle. And then the subject now became the receiver of the action, which is by Maria. And then a letter, the receiver now became the doer or the subject of that sentence. So look at the color coding again, class, so that you'll be able to understand clearly how to change active to passive. Now, using the same sentence, we have to just make use of the present progressive so that you will also have an idea what if the sentence is in the present progressive. Maria is writing a letter. So we have here a letter. So you see the format, a letter is being written. So what changed here is only the tense of the verb in the passive. Since this is in the progressive, you now have is being written. So the main verb still is in the past participle. Okay? So I think that's very clear. Very easy to understand. Number 3, how about the present perfect? So that you'll also have an idea how to change a sentence in the perfect tense. Maria has written a letter. So, a letter has been written by Maria. So, what did you notice? Only the verb in the passive was changed. So, a letter, a letter, a letter from sentence 1, 2, and 3. And then by Maria, by Maria, by Maria from sentences 1, 2, and 3. The same. What took place only? The change only took place in the verb. So, you see, that's how it works. Okay? Has written now became has been written because written here should be in the past participle, has been written for the passive voice. So you see, I hope you understand. It's very easy. So I have a lot of examples for you to understand. And please remember the following. Voice is one of the many characteristics of verbs that tells us whether the subject is acting or being acted upon. And only sentences with a transitive verb can be transformed to the passive voice. And there are 3 quick steps in transforming active voice sentences to passive. Number 1, make the direct object the subject of the passive voice sentence. Number 2, use the form of the be verb as an auxiliary and the past participle of the verb to complete the verb phrase. The be verb that goes with the main verb depends on the tense being used. And number 3, change the subject by a by phrase. It may sometimes be omitted. Okay, please take note of that. Change the subject to a by phrase. It may sometimes be omitted. So it's possible for it to be omitted. So I hope that you learned something from this discussion of the voice of verb. I hope you enjoyed the lesson on the voice of verb. Janea?
Hi! Please subscribe to Mommy's YouTube channel.
So again, please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and please click the subscribe button and the bell button for you to be notified every time I have a new video. Make learning fun. Please do not forget to subscribe in this channel. Okay? So, may I now say this one to all of you. Always be a blessing to others. Bye!